So this is me, and ever since I was a young lad, I thought that new technology would lead humanity to a better future. I'm no longer a young lad, and I can now safely say that 10-year-old me had way too much faith in corporate America to deliver on that promise. In my childhood, I got to see Google Chrome replace Internet Explorer, and went from watching my dad play Brick Breaker on his BlackBerry to playing Crash Bandicoot Racing on my mom's iPhone 3G. I thought this golden age of advancement would never die out, and could have never predicted that this same timeline would bless us with such innovation like paying a subscription fee to unlock your car and paying $16 of real money so that your Fortnite character can look like Goku. That's not to say we haven't experienced some amazing quality of life improvements from the efforts of large tech companies, but by placing our trust with them, we've also sacrificed a certain degree of control, which has left the door open to malicious practices. This is just a fact of life for any government or industry, but compared to something like food or real estate, where starving or freezing is a genuine concern, I think consumers have more bargaining power than they realize here. My increasing lack of respect for big tech has been no secret on this channel, but I think that it deserves its own video rather than only coming out through offhanded remarks and one-liners in my other content. So why do I dislike big tech? And what have I been doing about it? In order to explain why I'm no longer satisfied with big tech, I need to bring you back to a time where I actually did respect these companies. I wasn't around to experience the dot-com crash, but just in time to experience the aftermath, where the companies that survived had to fight to stay afloat, and many of the survivors established themselves through acquiring the talent of fallen businesses and building up infrastructure again. During this time was when Google went public, Android was started, Facebook and YouTube were founded, and the first iPhone launched. These decisions have been foundational to where we find ourselves now, and since it was all in its infancy, companies put their best foot forward so that they could claim stake in this new era. In its own way, this is kind of like a personal boomer moment where they say, back in my day we had
insert outdated thing here.
I got to see companies in some of their best moments, and it's likely why my standards are what they are. Although it is a significant personal experience, I don't think my history with the tech industry is the only reason why I'm losing faith, as I've also been learning more about tech as I further my career, and have established core philosophies about good development habits and ethical business practices. When analyzing these companies versus how they operated over a decade ago, it's not hard to see that many of them have plateaued when it comes to innovation, and are coasting on the success of yesteryears. Even if the companies that comprise big tech did not have the extensive history that they do, there's a baseline of what's acceptable and not acceptable to impose on your customers. Wikipedia claims that the term big tech started to become common verbiage around 2013, which they attribute to when tech companies' influence started to visibly surpass the regulation against their wrongdoings. I'm inclined to agree. It feels like nobody's held accountable anymore. When tech companies are exposed for non-consensually harvesting user data, they get a slap on the wrist, one so inconsequential that it just becomes a cost of doing business. When those same companies burden the regular taxpayers in the form of capitalizing on subsidies or tax breaks, only to turn around and price gouge or throw money at a politician they like, people don't seem to care unless it has clear Democratic or Republican bias, and only then do they push back in order to preserve their existing narrative. When these companies purchase huge portions of vital infrastructure, charge people for using said infrastructure, and then fall on hard times themselves, instead of having to face the consequences and be better, they just lay off hundreds of people and jeopardize other people's stability instead of taking a hit in profits. Or worse, instead of nationalizing the assets of failed companies among the tax-paying people, they receive bailouts from taxpayer money instead because they're just too important to fail. The people behind these companies and the people in government who turn a blind eye are two sides of the same coin. The government is certainly guilty of enabling these scummy business practices. For example, when the Navy pays Microsoft millions of dollars because they still need to use Windows XP, or when the IRS asks me to make an ID.me account so that I can receive the tax returns I deserve on my hard-earned money. They're perpetuating the problem. When I received the official letter from the IRS that said I should make an ID.me account, that's when I said enough was enough. Which brings me to how I handle my digital life now. I noticed on the back of the IRS letter, they had offered a time period of office hours where you could call and identify yourself based on your W-2 and 1040 documents over the phone. They attempted to make it as obscure and unappealing of an option as possible, but I decided that I would not compromise on my principles if I truly believed in them. So I did it. I called and waited for 30 minutes before going through a long and boring verification process that eventually was over. But I feel much better now, knowing that ID.me, or whoever ends up hacking them next, won't have my personal information at their convenience. I've made other changes in my life that now align with my philosophy, which many people call a FOSS mindset. I've mentioned other changes like my home server and my Calyx OS phone, but I also taught myself how to use Linux and use tools that aren't shackled to a company. I have an open source password manager. I use LibreOffice to write these scripts, and I've reduced my social media usage to YouTube and Reddit, and I don't even have an account with Reddit. I still have a long way to go, as I still use Adobe products to edit my videos, and I have to use Discord and iMessage since I can't convince my family or friends to switch to a more privacy-respecting messenger. Some of them are in my control more than others, but what I do now is certainly an improvement from where I used to be. If companies want my money or my data, they will have to earn it, which I think is how it should be. Of course, they won't make it easy, but if it was easy, then they'd be out of a job. I understand the security and convenience that comes with buying digital things, but I'm going to do my part and keep a small digital footprint. Some may assume where I am politically, but I'm not anti-corporation as much as I'm just anti-scumbag. I have no problem paying for things that are actually fair deals or good products. In fact, I actively like to take the opportunity to encourage business for respecting the consumer. My computers use AMD Ryzen, and I try to give smaller companies a chance when possible. It doesn't always work out, but I feel better knowing that my money went to a company that's going to try, rather than some ungrateful company that will pocket it and forget. If you take away anything from this video, let it be that you are the master of your own world. I was an ordinary person before making these changes, and I'm an ordinary person now. It took learning and effort to make everything come together, but it has been nothing but beneficial to how I interact with the digital world. If you guys are interested in making some of these changes, don't wait. Now is the perfect time to learn something new, and there are people who are very passionate and have already made the leap that can help you get where you want to go.
If you have enjoyed this video, please follow the like and subscribe protocol for quality assurance purposes. Thank you for watching, and may you enjoy your time at the factory.